That's Kat.
That's Ian.
And this is 404.
Script not found.
That's perfect. Like a terrible voice message. I love it.
Wow.
Hello, Ian. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Super. I am trying to download Node.js on my new MacBook as I'm building a brand new AI architecture from scratch on this new device. What that means is, well, I mean, we can talk about it. What it means is that I am having to download developer tools
Okay.
to be able to do the stuff I want to do, which basically is like, I want to make it easy for me to be able to, like when I find an internet link, I would love to be able to put that somewhere and for Claude to be able to reach into that somewhere. And right now everybody's like Microsoft, but it's expensive and I don't necessarily trust Microsoft. So
Right with you.
Obsidian is a tool that is a free tool. And you can store a lot of stuff in there, and it has a knowledge graph so you can look across all of your documentation. Files are saved locally, so it's more private, and you don't have to worry about Microsoft failing or Google Docs failing when they when they get hacked,
Yeah.
for instance.
I like that.
So, yeah, it's good, but you have to have a lot of storage. You just have to have a lot of stuff to be able to do it.
I bet.
I'm actively working on
I bet you're building out quite the personal infrastructure with Split Futures, I would have to imagine.
Yes. Well, this is where we're starting. It's beautiful that I can practice what I preach. And we're
That's true.
starting in a really strong place where I'm learning all the stuff I need to be able to drive clients in the right way. I'm trying to be the change I want to see in the world.
I
It's
like
nice.
that.
Yeah, it's nice.
I'm excited to talk about a lot of this once Kat gets on because
Same. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm excited to meet her.
Some of this is going to be you just quelling my own personal fears about AI, I think. So.
Oh, well, that's why I built Split Futures.
Yeah.
Right? And I can talk about that.
And I do want to start there. So we'll start there. Yeah.
And Kat, how do you know Kat?
Kat, when I first started in SMB, Kat was my digital marketing specialist. And since then, we've worked together a bit, but then at that point, I don't remember if she told me or whatever, we both coach fitness classes outside of this. And she had a personal podcast. And her podcast was about fitness and wellness. And it was geared towards women, which was great.
Yeah.
Hey, Kat, we're going over how
Hello.
you and I know each other.
Hello. Yes.
So the agency that I work with, I used to host a much more serious podcast called Small Business, Big Solutions. I have a sticker somewhere, was pushing me to create more frequent content, but the constraint was guests. So they're like, why don't you create a solo podcast where you would just put out episodes every week? And I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. Kat does that. And I did a pilot episode. And I sent it to the agency, and they asked me why I sounded so sad.
And then he sent it to me, and I said, Ian, are you okay?
Yep. So I was like, hey, would you want to come on and maybe do an episode with me? And then that episode went really well. And then we launched this 404 Script Not Found brand, which is just Kat and I digging into tech topics, career topics. It's the whole theme of the podcast is it's with the audience of us in mind, of people who are in technical careers who are not technical people. So young professionals or even older professionals who are, at technical companies who they themselves don't think that way. And to give you an idea of
don't leave me behind.
Yes. And to give you an idea of how serious we are with our topics is our second episode ever was titled AI with a question mark after it.
I like it.
Formerly, Annie, welcome to the show. I'm going to go ahead and say definitively the smartest person we've had on this show.
Oh,
you are the founder and chief AI architect and futurist at Split Futures, which you spun up this past December. We previously worked together at Cisco, where you were a global AI architect and futurist. And I had the pleasure of getting to see you speak at our SMB advisory board last year, which left me with the idea that you do such a good job of making AI relatable and human and easily digestible and not scary, which for me is a large piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Part of the reason I left Cisco was that I wanted to build something different for people like you. and for leaders that are leading teams like yours. So I'm excited to talk about that, but then also kind of answer your questions and dig around. Just geek out, man. Just geek out.
Listen, as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, we will do our best to catch up, to stay up.
Awesome.
So
All
let's
right, yeah.
start there because you just said something that is so interesting to me. And we know this to be true, obviously, but I'm curious as to even like the depths of it is that companies are tracking AI usage. And as a leader, I've heard that. I've been in talent conversations where that's gotten brought up. And I'm curious of like, obviously, it's easy to go just throw prompts in there, but there are levels to it. So are they tracking, and maybe we have to use Cisco just holistically as an example. Is it volume based? Is it advancement of query? Like what level of tracking? Do I need to up my game here?
I don't know exactly the level of tracking
That's
because I
fair.
wasn't part of the group that was doing it. But I can tell you what they can track. And I can tell you what metrics I think are inaccurate and
Okay.
not wrong
Ooh.
or
Let's
not right.
start there.
So one of the things they're going to be tracking is the number of times you click, the number of tokens you're using. They can actually see that. They're going to track growth of usage over time. At Cisco, we have Circuit, which now has interfaces where they have multiple models. They have thinking models and reasoning models, and they have super fast models. So the number of prompts are different. So I would use a Haiku model, like Cloud Haiku, because it was super light for a lot of my tasks. So if they measured me on token usage, I'd be on the lower end because I don't want to kill the earth.
Yeah.
Right?
We're big
Just
on that on this show.
yeah. We can talk about that too. But just foundationally, if they're measuring people on token usage, that's not good. If they're measuring people on we had a quarterly review with our manager and we were required to actually state how we were using AI. So anytime I would get in front of people or I would talk to them about AI, I'm like, please use this meeting as the proof that you're using AI. I was like, write this down in your quarterly development that this is how you used AI, because you have for KSO, which is key strategic objectives plan, or for any kind of comp, anything. Your individual performance factor is in part going to be how are you using AI? You have to be a good storyteller there. But then they're also looking at agentic creation. Are you building agents? Do you have any agents in the Circuit dashboard? Have you used somebody else's? Have you built your own? And then my husband is a developer, and he had a meeting with his manager, and his manager is like, we compare you guys based on how much code you're checking in. And my husband was like, I'm a senior person. I deal with really gnarly problems. And if I spend 2 days on something, I can have 32,000 lines of code I'm supposed to review. But you're requiring me to gauge my success based on what I'm checking in. And what's interesting about that is that errors, security issues are on the rise. And that's because we are holding people accountable to a standard that is not driving as much value as it is simply these efficiency measures. And based on the different data points, we're having less than 1% efficiency. Some say 0.2%, 0.2% efficiency. We have some people who are saving hours and some people where it's taking a lot more time. We have AI brain fry that's happening. We have people who are burning out. We have people, 44%, 40% of Gen Z is actively sabotaging generative AI efforts inside corporations, and about a little less than 30, maybe 30% of employees overall. And you have 8 in 10 employees just don't trust the tools, whereas 80-something% of executives do trust the tools to do really complicated things. And this is my whole thesis, right? We have a massive issue where people do not trust AI. They do not want to use all of the water. They do not want to use all of the energy. They do not want to train, like the Meta saying, we're going to be overseeing what you're doing because we're going to train agents based on the work you do.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Right.
We have
Yeah.
people who have come to me, and I've been working on generative AI transformation at Cisco since like 2022, right? Since ChatGPT dropped and Cisco's like, what are we doing? But even before that, I was working on AI, machine learning, computer vision, and some other fun things like augmented reality and distributed ledger. So I've been working for years on trying to transform, and people are scared, but leaders aren't listening. They're just not listening because the CEO and the CMO and the CPO or the C everybody is listening to Gartner and Accenture and Bain and EY, freaking whatever, PricewaterhouseCooper. Everybody, they're listening to those folks, and those folks are saying, you need to be agentic or you're going to miss out. and they kick it to the VP, and the VP says, okay, y'all, we're responsible for these metrics. We need to see usage. We're going to measure efficiency. Show me efficiency. And then they kick that down to the director, and the director's like, tell me how you're using AI. Let's teach each other how we're using AI. And then they kick that down to the team, and the team is like, AI is not it does not make sense.
Yeah.
Like, what I do is really complicated, but you
Show
go
me how I can
all the
use
way up
AI.
to your Wall Street promises. They are not listening.
All right.
That felt cathartic to me. That felt
For all of us.
Yeah, that was.
I need to hear that.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The problem is that leaders aren't listening. It's interesting. I had a presentation last week. It's actually a Cisco presentation where they pulled me in to do a workshop. It was a STEM workshop with Cisco people, Cisco employees and their children. So their children were, ranged from like 8 and up. But the workshop I do is really 12, 14 and up. And that's because I talk to kids about the risks of AI. And some of the risks of AI are self-harm, harming others, emotional connection, sexualization, pornography, and deepfakes. And I can't talk about those things with little kids, but we had little kids there. So I kind of had to balance what my narrative was. But Gen Z in 2025, they were anxious, but the second feeling was they were excited. They were hopeful and excited. And as you look in 2026, that has declined considerably. And so now they're not only anxious, they're angry, and hopefulness and excitement have declined considerably. So you have this movement, and leaders they're not even paying attention, man. They're
And is
not
that
even
what's
paying attention.
fueling that sabotage?
Legitimately, that's a new statistic as of the last quarter. Actively sabotaging. You've got quiet quitting of AI.
And is that are we talking, we're not talking obviously destruction or anything, but maybe it's putting in wrong information, or is it just an ignoring and not utilizing the technology?
I think there's
what
an
level
aspect of
that?
not, I refuse.
Okay.
I'm not doing this. I'm not going to train it on my workflow.
Yeah.
And knowing Gen Z that I know, I can imagine it might be a little more active than that. I don't have the original data, so it's a great headline, but I also have seen that. I've seen people that are like, no way. And this goes back to 10 years ago, 7 to 10 years ago. Gen Z was looking at the sustainability metrics of a company before they committed to a job there. They were like, I want to see what you're doing in sustainability. I want to see your metrics. And so it feeds into that. I'm in Texas, and there's a lot of, we can talk about AI data centers, hyperscale data centers if you like, and some work I've done there. We could talk about AI ethics if you like, and some work I've done there, or just split features.
Well, we can talk about all of it. It is interesting while we're on the sustainability topic, because I wrote a blog a year ago on sustainability. It was something that was the care about in technology, and we've now kind of just shifted it to the back burner in the name of spinning up as much as we can in support of AI.
Well, okay, let's be specific. It's not just in the name of AI.
Okay.
What's happening in the AI data center movement, it's being done in the name of national security.
Okay.
I want to be clear. And that's what's happening in the reason that they're driving all of the AI data centers in the United States. It's not simply for efficiency any longer. It's so that we can, and I say we, the United States is doing a push. So you have China, you have the United States, you have the EU. They're the most sophisticated countries that have actually moved forward. And I say that. I'm sure there's somebody on this that is going to be like, actually, Brazil, I don't know. But these are the ones I'm most familiar with. Sorry, just put it in the chat.
We know.
Put it in the comments, right? Put it in the comments if I'm wrong. I'd love to know. But these are the three that I'm paying the most attention to. And what's happening is that in the European Union, these companies that committed to sustainability, they continue to have to commit to sustainability. They're fighting and they're wrestling with it. Part of the challenge is that UK years ago defined data centers as critical infrastructure. That decision was also made in the United States. Data centers are critical infrastructure. So as we run out of water, we run out of energy. Data centers get it before we do. So you have brownouts, you have grayouts, you have blackouts. So as we're going over to national security, water is an issue, energy is an issue, but more importantly, if you have generative tools and you have bad intentions, you can absolutely take over the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was a bill introduced years ago, probably 3 years ago, and I was stunned because the bill was to make sure that AI, generative AI capabilities, were not attached to nuclear weapons, and it was not approved. And I was like, why? And somebody explained it to me and they said, look, if we can't do it and they can, it puts us at a disadvantage. And so as we look at building these models and trying to all of the complexity from a defense perspective, it's not just efficiency, it's also national security. And that's where it gets extra challenging because that's even more polarizing than just Wall Street, right? So you have all of these people who are like, fighting the data centers. But what they really don't understand, and this is why a lot of this development is encouraged by politicians in states that are very defense-minded, that's part of the reason it's happening, is that those senators and those lawmakers, those policymakers are this narrative is it's about national security. And I'll be honest, it really is. There is a huge issue there. So as we're looking at hyperscale data centers, it's not simply for Wall Street. It is also for national security.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to go back to the Gen Z pushing back on it, but I don't think I have the options. Do I want to use AI every day? No, but I don't know that there is a choice not to if you want to be successful in your career, especially in tech. But I'm curious, would you say we could move, or how would we move from throwing agents at workers and saying, we're going to train you on this, to like actually building a cognitive architecture that thrives?
That's literally what Split Futures does. So the reason I named it Split Futures, as you mentioned, Ian, I'm a futurist and I'm the chief AI architect really driving this organization and building partnerships with companies that want to do the type of work that I'm doing. And there are three parts of it. One is kind of commoditized. That's like, how can you use AI in your organization these days? Which, again, like there are a lot of people who are able to do that. It's really important to understand your role, your workflow, the line of business. That's great. I can do that. But the other two parts are re-architecting the cognitive workforce. And part of it is also informing policy. And I have a couple of parts that I do on leading an initiative around code of AI ethics for knowledge workers specifically like you, and I'll talk about that. And the other part of it is actually writing a paper, doing a bunch of research, quantitative research about water security in an age of hyperscale data centers and drought areas, which I'm in Texas, and it was specifically around Texas. And so I'm continuing to do work around that, around let's re-envision something different. So starting with your question, Kat, how can, like, we feel forced to do this and we don't know how. So the code of AI ethics that I developed, and I still need to put a website to put this, these are the workshops I'm doing. So the first workshop I did was with 8th graders. And I said, I know, who here likes AI? I think I had one hand out of 50 14-year-olds. And I was like, that's on brand. That's on brand.
That's
and I was
good,
like,
though, to me.
I agree. I don't disagree.
If a whole
to their
room went up, I'd be
teachers,
terrified.
to their teachers,
I
to their
same.
parents, to the college coaches, to the career counselors, all of these people they also don't really understand AI, but they know that they need to figure out how to get kids to use it. It's this battleground, right? Like I even talk to my children. So let me pull back even further. I created the code of AI ethics because a lot of people like you were like, look, we have big codes of AI ethics for like Anthropic, don't leave people behind. And, make sure we're doing safety, first before we actually build a super intelligence that's going to kill us all because we're not sustainable, carbon, blah, blah, blah. Right? Like that is the thing that people talk about, but they're like, but that's them. Lawmakers, make sure you regulate it. That's them. What about Kat? What can Kat do to actually evolve her career in the way that she needs to and actually have the tools and use the tools in a way that's not going to basically lead and destroy humans and the planet?
If you like the episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time.
Thank you for listening.